So, nonsense. That's what they said. Nonsense. They thought it was all nonsense. In a Good Friday world, all Easter sounds ridiculous. Idle tales, nonsense. But the women were there. They were there, they showed up. They showed up at the cross. They showed up at the tomb. They showed up with grief and spices, not expecting resurrection, just trying to do the right next thing. One foot in front of another. And then, idle tales, nonsense. The other disciples just brushed it off. It was just grief, they said. They were seeing what they want to see, just women. Does that happen to you ever today? I guess not much has changed, right? They just saw what they wanted to see. It was just grief. You see, even now, today, it's hard to see. It's hard to understand. It's hard to believe in resurrection in a Good Friday world. And we are living in a Good Friday world. Anyone would agree with that statement? Anyone read the news today? Sometimes it's just hard to call out the nonsense, right? We have cruelty that's dressed up as policy, injustice dressed up as order, truth that gets twisted, and the people who get trampled are the most vulnerable. And of course, we live in a Good Friday world where some of these things happen to our friends and our families, right? I saw Good Friday close this year. As many of you might remember, the night before my sister's wedding, she and her wife were in their beloved Asheville home when a flood came through, Hurricane Helene. It shifted the mountain behind her and collapsed it. And the river that was in front of her house met the mountain and went through the middle of her house while she was in it. It was radio silence for me and my family as we were waiting and preparing for their feast day for 28 hours. They survived, the house didn't. The wedding was canceled, but love wasn't canceled. They eloped, and they've been showing up every single day trying to figure out and navigate our changing governmental world, trying to figure out what's next for them and their property. And they work for the VA. Both of them do. Her and her wife work in a system that increasingly feels like the mountain behind their home. Unstable, chaotic, hopeless. But they still show up. They still try to do the right thing, even in the middle of the storm that just seems to keep coming. Of course, it's not just them, right? We're all experiencing these Good Friday moments because we live in a Good Friday world. The nonprofit world is really reeling right now because we're not sure what grants are available, what grants have been cut, what funding that had already been promised will disappear. It's confusing, it's confounding, it's destabilizing. Even Trinity Center has seen changes in the grants that they apply for. Food banks are having to cut budgets as the line keeps growing out the door looking for food. It's a Good Friday world. And some days, it feels like that fragile egg. It feels like nonsense. But this is where Easter begins. Easter begins in the chaos, in the darkness, in the moment where nowhere on your list is hope. The women came to amidst their Good Friday world because the worst had happened to them, and they rolled back the stone and nothing was there. Even they didn't understand. They had to say, remember. They had to hear, remember like what Jesus said. It's not nostalgia, remember, but remember, wake up. Jesus has told you something is happening now. And just like a fresh breath of air, they took it and the truth came out. And they went and they told others who didn't believe them, but yet they kept telling them. They were dismissed, but they told their story anyway. This is where resurrection begins, with people who keep showing up. People who risk speaking hope out loud, even when no one is listening. People who remember and tell the truth and love all the time. Everyone. Anyway. A few weeks ago, I listened to a lecture by Marian Bishop Budd. You might remember her name. She is the Episcopal Bishop of the Washington, D.C., and she gave a pretty, well, as she says, unremarkable speech in very extraordinary circumstances at the National Cathedral on the day of the inauguration. And she received, let's just say, some feedback from that sermon. It was either hated or admired, because it was the pinpoint between politics and church, right? The place that we're really uncomfortable with. But she was saying that this is about love, dignity, and the teachings of Jesus, that is what we are about. And in her recent lecture here in Berkeley, she said something that I couldn't let go of. She said, hopelessness is not an option for Christians. Now, hopelessness is not an option for Christians. I was like, oh, did you read the news? She says that not because we're to walk around with blinders on. Everything's fine, everything is just fine, don't worry about a thing. But not because we're naive, or not that we've seen the worst of it and that worst of it will change us, because all of that is true too. Hopelessness is not an option because we know that that's not the end of the story. When all seems lost, we believe in this God that says love will win. She's reminded us that we are meaning-making people, that we are created to tell sacred stories, to live in ritual, to reach for something beyond ourselves. She named it what's so easy to forget, that despair is real, but it's not final. We will respect, she said, we will respect the dignity of every human being in what has become a culture of contempt. We will respond with kindness. And in a time when it's easy to be cynical or despairing, we will choose hope. That's resurrection. Not a flip of the switch, but a refusal to give in. A courageous act of faith that says, we're still here. We're still standing. We're still loving. We're still speaking. We're still believing that God is not finished yet. Resurrection begins right here in the showing up, in the remembering, in telling the truth, even when others call it nonsense. Earlier today, I made a little bit of a mess. Sorry, Altar Guild. I made a little mess, and we cracked open a simple egg with the kids. It was fragile. It was ordinary. And what came out wasn't yolk. It was joy. It was color. It was confetti. And what turned to be what we thought would be a mess is a celebration. That's resurrection. That's the most amazing thing about our God that we believe in. That God takes this broken, messy things that we have to offer God, and so collective messy things, and does something miraculous with it. so that I don't have to worry if I'm enough. Because it's not about me. It's about all of us and God. That we lift up our eggy, yolky, broken mess, and God creates a celebration. Resurrection doesn't erase the cross. It doesn't deny grief or undo the injustice. It declares defiantly that this isn't the last word, and with our broken mess, God will make something new. That we will meet contempt with kindness. We will speak up for the dignity of every human being. We will love with courage and trust that God can take what we offer and make so much more than we can ever imagine. The tomb is empty. Dawn has come, and here we are. In this hour, let us live as resurrection is real. Let us live like kingdom is already on the move. Let us live like love has the final word. Love wins. Hallelujah, Christ is risen.